2006 Lexus IS250. Going to be doing a timing chain. So far what I've taken off are the fans. As you can see, they're not there anymore. I'm draining the fluid. Took out the air box that goes there. Took off all the covers, shrouds. Had to disconnect this wiring harness in order to get the fans out, because these are attached to the fans. Next, I will be removing that plug that's attached to that oil thing down there. Kind of leads up here. Then disconnect those plugs, work my way up, disconnect this plug, the plug that goes in that box, all the plugs that come across here, no big deal, and just move this whole thing over. I already had to disconnect this so I can get it loose enough, and that goes inside here. It connects to that box. I really don't know too. 2006 Lexus IS250. I'm attempting to do the timing chain. I say attempting because I've never done it before. In my last video, I showed people how to get to the alternator as best I could with as little video time but as much audible description as possible. If you remember, you just reach down there with your left hand and you can get to that bolt as long as you have your socket in your hand and all that stuff, etc., etc. This part was a nightmare. It has these hex screws that go in certain places. As you can see, I already got it off. Anyway, the worst one is this one. It goes down in there, and then this one that goes down in there. If you do not have long enough tools, don't attempt it. I did it because I managed. I think on the fly sometimes. Anyway, once you get those two worst ones out, there's a bolt that goes behind it. Now that bolt comes through here, so you have to reach around, if you have small hands, back here with your socket wrench to get it out. Then this hose is attached to the other side of the manifold. This hose is a 90-degree. It comes around. It goes around the other side of the manifold. It attaches to this one. So you got to get that off as best you can. There's no easy way. It's all hard. It's complicated. But one step at a time, I'm making it happen. So just to give you some pointers, hex bolt here, hex bolt here. The tube comes around from the back, attaches there. The secondary tube, this one, attaches here to the back end of the manifold, or the throttle body. So if you can get that far, you're doing good. So I'll see you on the next video. This is going to be one of however many it is until I get the timing chain done. So cool. This will be a video one right after another. I'm not going to post one at a time and leave you hanging. So if you're seeing this, then you know there's already however many videos to watch to get there. And I am back. In case you're just joining me, this is going to be part 2, a very short part 2. And this is a 2006 Lexus IS250. I'm attempting to do the timing chain and water pump. So this is as far as I am. I just disassembled this whole thing to get this out. This is where the thermostat goes, and this is your inlet and outlet for all that, for the water, and it connects to all that stuff. The water pump thing is a 2-part. It's kind of weird because you attach a piece here that I just pulled off, but you also end up having to remove this whole thing. And if you look inside, you can see it's a double gasket thing, like on the outside and then on the inside. I'll be removing the alternator. I will move over the AC, make sure the engine's in time by turning the crank. Don't worry, you can get the engine in time, because internally is what you have to worry about. This crank moves the chain that's attached to the cams and works in unison. Anyway, in case you were wondering if the belt's off, can you still get it in time? Yes, you can. No big deal. I have to finish removing some more wiring, get these valve covers off, and I'll just keep gumming with them. Like I said, this is part 2, in case you're just joining me. It's a long road ahead, and I'll see you in the next one. Just like promised, we're back, and this is day 2 of the 2006 Lexus IS250 tear down to timing chain and water pump situation. Helpful tip when it comes to getting the AC unit moved over: there's this bolt right here that goes into the side of your block. Get some rust buster, some kind of something that'll break it loose back here. Mine fortunately was already loose. I mean, it was only hand tight, and there was a nut on the end of it kind of keeping it secure as possible. But yeah, you have to get that out, or at least loose, so you can turn it by hand to be able to get the others all the way off. It wasn't simple. I mean, it wasn't hard. They're just 12 millimeter. There's one on the bottom, or 2 on the bottom, I'm sorry, and then 1 right here, and then that one over there. So once you get that, that moves that bad boy out of your way. Same thing with the alternator. If you watched the previous video, you want to get to that bolt above this bolt. I didn't even realize that until just now. Or there's a nut, and that nut is attached to the back of the bracket. You don't have to remove it once you get it off, but this is the alternator. I mean, it's a little wet, or a little muddy from being in the wet, but it's brand new. That was from my previous video. Anyway, next time I come back, I will hopefully have the valve covers off and the water pump off. Stupid mosquitoes. We'll see where the timing marks are and all that stuff. We'll turn the crank by hand, and then we'll go ahead and try to take off the rest of the timing cover itself. But for now, that's where we're at. Like I said, alternator, AC, and to get to that, you have to take this off as well in order to start taking the rest of the front off, because I realized at this point it's bolted to that, and that's all got to come off. So this whole section, I don't even know what it's shaped like, but this whole section is all coming off of the motor. As you can see, it was leaking somewhere. Bought the car with 170,000 on the clock exactly. I got like maybe 172 or 173. I'm not 100% sure. Not very many. And then the chain started rattling inside there, and I looked that up, found out that that's what the problem is, so I'm doing it myself. Next time I come back, like I said, hopefully I'll have both valve covers off, water pump off, and then I'll get it set the time and start removing the rest of that stuff, probably for another video. So keep cranking, do what you do. I'll see you guys later. And we're back. So this is the next day from the last time we talked. Anyway, in case you're new to what's going on, I am in the process of trying to get to my timing chain, and right now I'm taking off valve covers, which is proving to be very, very challenging. I've got, this is bank 2, that's bank 1. So in bank 1 or bank 2, there's 10 millimeter, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Go to the other side down there in that corner. There is, can't get to it, can't see it from here. So that, down there, I don't know, that's what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, that's 7. 7, 8, 9, 10. I don't know if you can see it. I can't see it. But just to the side of this, over there, look at my fingertip. 10, 11 that hold this on here. But these two, this one and the one over there, are 12 millimeter. And then on the other side, bank 1, pretty sure it's the same, except there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So there's got to be at least 12 on the other side, but I don't know for sure. Anyway, look at that. Look how complicated that is. It's just a nightmare so far on both sides. Somebody would say, how do you even know what you're doing? I just take it apart slowly. That's all. That's how you figure it out. You just take one thing one thing at a time, slowly, and then when you put it back together, you just retrace all your steps. Anyway, once I get all those out and get this bracket off down there, this one, I'll be able to set time. Oh, I take that back. I got to pull the spark plugs out. Then I can set time, make sure it's in top dead center. This is bank 1, piston all the way up. Make sure the timing marks are set as well on your pulley for your crank. But yeah, oh, tidbit. There are 2 bolts, one on each side. They're not too hard to get to, but they attach to this. I'll show you what they look like. There's 2 of them. They are either filler or returns. I'm pretty sure they are fillers. Check these out. It's these tubes. So that's the one bolt for the top end, and then this other bolt is for the bottom end. This is a 22 millimeter. So if you don't have anything that's 22 millimeter, don't waste your time. And they are shaped accordingly. You can't mix them up when you take them off. I mean, one's got a little bit shorter throw than the other. And it goes on to this side. You can't really see right there. That's where the top is. And then down on the bottom, I really can't see the camera, so I can't tell you what's going on. But anyway, let's get through this. Next video, hopefully I'll have both of these valve covers off, and I'll tell you if there's 11 bolts on both sides or 12 bolts on both sides, whatever. And hopefully I'll have the front timing cover off. I got to drain the oil right now, get all that out of there, and then I have to find a way to build an apparatus to lift the engine when it comes time to taking the bottom piece off. I saw in the video a guy had an engine stand deal that went from the left to the right and held on to those both sides where your shock towers are. I got to build something very similar to that, so we'll see how that goes. So let's get it done. Okay, we're back. If you're just joining us, we are in the process of trying to get valve covers off so we can get closer to accomplishing the goal of getting the timing chain off. I got this thing all disassembled. Don't ask me what it is. I have no idea. But I do know this. These hoses directly above it are preventing me from being able to pull it out. It's 2 12 millimeter nuts on both sides. One behind this hose. There's another one. Simple, but to get it off, if you can see kind of where my finger is, that 10 millimeter bolt holds a bracket. Here we go. Behind this bracket, right there, there's a 10 millimeter bolt. It showed you just from the other side. And the bracket is attached to these, which I think is the inlet and outlet to my heater core. I'm not sure. Maybe it's for something else. Who knows? No, it is. It is, because it goes into my firewall. There we go. So this is your heater core hose setup, and I don't know why it's the way it is. Anyway, once you get that 10 millimeter bolt out, I think it'll give me enough room to move this out of my way, as you can see. So once I get this moved out of my way, this off, I'll go ahead and finish taking out the rest of this stuff on the valve covers. I always go for the hardest one first because, as you can see, there's not really much on this other side. So I think it'll be fairly easy to get it off. Once I get this one off, I'll get that one off. Then I'll go for the timing, the water pump. I know there's some things down here I got to take off. Then make sure I got it set to dead center, top dead center on this piston, because this is bank 1. So we'll make sure that piston's all the way up. Make sure the timing marks are in line. Make sure the chain's all in line before we go ahead and try to remove anything. But I know that I have to suspend the engine, which means I got to disconnect a motor mount on this side, and on the other side down in there, I don't know if you can see it, there it is. Anyway, remove those and then suspend the engine however I can. I'm probably going to have to attach to the bottom part where the motor mounts go with a strap and come around both sides and then jack it up. But the next video you'll see I'll have these off, and hopefully all this off and the chains, the new chains on, and I'll kind of explain what I had to do to get to that point. So I'll see you on the next. And we are back. All right, this is for all my MacGyver mechanics, male or female, doesn't matter. If you don't have the crankshaft pulley tool to remove it, this will work. I've already done it, but I'm just demonstrating so that there's no, how did he do that? Check it out. You got the belt on, see? Just like normal. Okay, it's wrapping around. Then you create a pinch point. With that pinch point, you're going to make sure it stays flush. You got to keep that pinch point there. So tuck it down as far as you can. Then, once you get your pinch point started, you're looping the belt back over itself. This is an old trick, old mechanic taught me. See what I'm doing? Then, you're going to take it, drop it down towards the front of your sway bar, pick it up from the back side of your sway bar. Let me demonstrate. You're going to pull it from the back side of it so it's coming around from the front and back up. Check it out. See how it goes down from the front side and pulls back up from the back side. Then you're going to take your breaker bar with the socket. This is a 22 millimeter socket, 1/2 inch drive breaker bar. Rest it on there. It'll sit there, no problem. Then you take your pry bar. If you have one like mine, I got it from Harbor Freight. But if you don't, you got a better one, cool. Anyway, you pull it tight, really tight. And then you get it slipped on top of there. Mine has an angle on it. It worked fine for me like this. But just in case, you can flip it over so it doesn't pull itself off. Alright? Because sometimes that stuff happens. I mean, let's just be real. Anyway, you're going to pull really tight. And I mean tight, not to the point where you're trying to break anything, but to the point where you create a good break on the pulley so it doesn't turn. Then you're going to pull this forward. it will let it turn. Don't worry about it. It's not going to stop it. But you make sure that this breaker bar, pry bar, is tight enough to where it doesn't let that pulley turn at all. Okay? You'll know when you're doing it right. And most importantly, before you get that far, make sure you are as close to timing as possible. Where your timing marks. Mine are right here. That first mark is for bank 1, and that's for bank 2. But you're going to line that up where that B is for bank. This mark only has to move just to there. So no big deal. So once you get that point, like I said, you get it to the point where you don't have to turn it very far, you are good to go. And like I said, I'm going to demonstrate everything past this point as much as I can. I'm not trying to make it too detailed because it makes it too long. Some people are just trying to get it done, get to the point. So once you get all this stuff done, you get this off of here. Like I said, you'll pull this bolt out. And once you pull this bolt out, the pulley just slides right off. Make sure you don't lose your keyway, because mine is angled down right now, so I have to turn the whole thing again. Like I said, I have the piston, the spark plugs pulled out, so I will be able to turn it manually, get it synchronized back into time. And I'm gonna have to do this again anyway. I should have just left this on here, but I gotta do it again anyway. So once I get the cover off, I can loop the belt back around, put this back on, put this pulley back on, and hold it again so I can get the camshaft bolts loose. But that'll be another video. I'll show you again. You guys take it easy. And we're back again. All right, now I'm underneath the car, and I will be removing the AC bracket. As you see, I got my AC just dangling here because I was able to remove it and not have to do too much to get that off. Now, I've seen the video where a guy says you have to jack the engine up to get the front cover off. I'm not saying I'm going to prove it wrong. I'm just going to say, let's see, because I don't see the justification for it. There are like 6 bolts that go along the bottom edge of this thing. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 over there. Now there are more bolts after that, but when you look at the front of this, tell me if I'm wrong, there is a plenum right here. It's a top edge to a bottom edge where they meet. And then you just go up the walls, and there's bolts all the way across there that hold this on. Some will go across the front over there, and then they come back around to the other side. And it's the same thing. There's a plenum where a top edge meets a bottom edge. So I'm not certain that it requires removing the whole entire bottom oil pan, which I don't want to if I don't have to. And if I don't have to, then I'm not going to, because that just seems excessive. And I built the contraption to get ready to raise the engine, but then I got down here, and like I said, I was like, do I have to? So I'll be back again after I remove this, and I'm going to loosen every last one of these bolts in the front of this thing so I can get familiarized with where they all are and what they're all attached to and all that. But for now, yeah, this is already loose, and this is a bunch of bolts. It's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, 5 bolts that hold that bracket on, and it's already loose. Let me demonstrate. There's the one at the top. All right, then the one that's leading off towards the back that you can barely see a little bit. Then there's the one up front right here, one directly underneath it, and then one behind it over there. And that gets off your AC bracket. So I will be back with another video. Like I said, this is a 2006 Lexus IS250, and I'm doing the timing chain all on my own. Never done this before, but taking my time because I'm not in no hurry. But we'll be back. We are back once more. So I have loosened all the bolts all around the whole timing cover. We will see after I remove the water pump and loosen up more bolts what happens next. As you can see, it's all wet. I went all the way around this bad boy, and yeah, there's a lot of bolts. But as you can see, if you look down in there, that is the bottom. If you were laying underneath, that's the bottom of that bolt that comes up. So far, I think 4 bolts actually come in contact. 1, 2, 3, 4 bolts come in contact with the front, and 1 on each side from the bottom end. And then we will find out once I attempt to remove this cover. So that's it for right now. I'll be back again. 2006 Lexus IS250 timing cover removal. Right now is at the water pump stage. Now let's get into it. And we are back again. So I have come to the realization that you do have to drop this pan in order to get the front cover of your engine off. Now I've gotten all the bolts out from the front side of this lower or upper pan, is what it really is. Then you have to work your way towards the back and get to this is where your lower oil pan will be. There's a whole bunch of bolts that go all the way around it. Don't forget one, because if you do, then you're going to end up bending the pan like I did slightly, but I'll make sure it's true again. Anyway, up inside here are the rest of the bolts that go, see that? 1, 2, 3, 4, and then there's 2 more inside here that are 10 millimeters. It's this little crevice of a hole. I don't even know why it's there. You can't really see it on film, but you see how the metal curves towards my finger. Inside here, up into this hole, right in there, there are 2 10 millimeter bolts that hold the rest of that up. Now I have to attempt to pull this down. Just like I said, there's like 14 total bolts that hold the upper pan on. Yeah. So you're going to get all of them that are underneath here. They're all 12 except for the 2 that are inside that crevice. Those are 10s. And then find a way to pry this down, which sucks. Then we'll get to remove this thing. So I'm glad you're still with me if you are. It's just been a journey and a half, one day at a time, a little bit at a time. So I will see you again soon with the cover off. Okay, back again. I gotta tell you guys something, so just in case you ask in the comment section how to get the oil pan off. Well, what I did, and it's probably the worst thing to do, but I really didn't have a huge choice in the matter. It's, you know, I'm trying to get this thing off. I hope you have enough light. Anyway, I stuck a screwdriver, a flathead screwdriver, just like that, through there. There's a little space in here, as you can see. Maybe you can, I don't know. There's a little space in here. The pan is going to be covering this whole thing where the screwdriver is. And I just got it in between there and tapped until I got it in to the point where it got to here. And then I got my tiny flat pry bar and did the rest of it. And I just worked my way around. It's very difficult. It's tedious, but you got to do what you got to do. So just a helpful tip. Alrighty, we are back again. Oh man, this has been so challenging. So you see these two holes? There are two 14mm bolts on opposite sides of each other that are also part of this pan. To get this side out, this is if you're laying underneath the car and this is the right side of the exhaust, you have to reach. Okay, see this metal tube? You have to stick your extension through this side to get to that. And you also have to pry away the rubber black hose that kind of dangles down. You can see the hose clip that holds it on. That hose is going to be in your line of sight. Even though it looks like it's a straight path, it's not a straight path. I mean, I'm holding the phone at an angle and it looks straight. So then on the other side, it's a little easier. There's less stuff in your way, but you see two holes. I don't know what that upper one is. I don't see something like that on this side. I mean, it's kind of hard to see anyway. But if I can get that angle again. This kind of sucks. Trying to find that angle that I had last time. Okay, right here. Yeah, there's not another hole above that hole like on the other side, so I'm pretty sure there's not a bolt in there as well. It's still kind of hung up though, so if it's just glue, then I'll let you know in the next video again. Again, if you're joining me, then you're on the mission as well as I am to do your own timing chain on a Lexus IS250, and this is a 2006 rear-wheel drive model. So just another helpful tip, man. Like I said, you have to reach way up in here. I don't know if you can see the light in there, but you have to reach your arm way in here to the other side where that light is flashing to be able to manually pull the rest of the bolt out once you get it. So just letting you guys know it's been a bear and a half, but we're gonna get it done. All right, and we are at a great success. Quick note here, just to let you know, the oil sump is 3 10mm. Two of them, let me get a light underneath here. See those two? Those two, you see the gasket and the two studs coming down? Those where your two 10mm bolts are. And then underneath there, you can't miss it. There's another one that holds that up. It's got its own little arm and everything. It is off to the right. Then finally this thing is ready to come off. I haven't pulled it all the way off because I ran into that issue and I was filming and realized I couldn't keep going until I figured out what else was next. Here. Alright, now this is the moment that we've been working towards, getting to this. This is finally coming off. Voila. I kept as much of the hardware in here as possible, simply so I don't forget what goes where. This is the biggest challenge I've had when it comes to working on cars. I mean, I've worked on cars a lot. I've done head gaskets. I've done rebuilding of heads, but I've never had a timing cover that was so complex. I've never had to do timing chains like this. I mean, it's getting dark now, but I'm setting this on the ground. I don't know what exactly it is that was bad. I was listening to rattling. The chain doesn't look. There we go. The chain's not supposed to be loose like that. I think it's supposed to be tight the whole time. So the chain stretched just a little bit. These chains may or may not have. Yeah, this one did too. So this is just a helpful hint to let you guys know that when you hear that rattling sound, it is time to change the chains and the guides and everything. That, oh my gosh. I can't express enough how long it took me and how difficult it is to do this. All I can say is I hope I didn't damage too many things. I hope the reassembly process goes a little bit smoother than the disassembly process. But that's neither here nor there. We are not at the final stretch, but we finally got off what we needed to get off, which was the timing cover. So if you're with me on this journey, the next step is putting the harmonic balance crank pulley back on, holding it same way we did the last time with the strap and everything, or with the belt, and removing these. I called Lexus and they said they are reusable. Somebody in a video said they were not reusable. I tried to get some more and they were like, the manual doesn't say they're not reusable. They probably are usable. So I'm like, cool. So I'm going to reuse them. And it is almost in time. No, it's in time still. That's the mark I needed to have. Bank 1 and Bank 2 should relatively be close to being in time. It's probably off just by a teeny bit because of the stretching of the chain. I think this is supposed to be in line with that. I could be wrong. Don't quote me. I'm not a mechanic like that, but this is Bank 2. I know that. This whole side is Bank 2 and this whole side is Bank 1. Sorry for it being extensive on this last part as far as getting the time cover off, but I just had to tell you guys what was up. So in the next one, I will have the chain set and I will tell you what I did to get to that point. So take care for now. Hello, and we're back again. So we are to the point where we're going to start taking off the chains. First thing you got to do is loosen your bolts on both sets of cams. Now there's a way to do that so it's not super hard, and this is what it is. Now I used a crescent wrench, which was kind of small and had a breaker bar that fit over the end of the handle, and then I used a breaker bar. It's a 17mm nut on all 4 of them, and what you do is you just hold on to this, loosen the nuts, and you're good. But make sure you loosen all of them. You know, start for this one, and then that one, and that one, whatever. Just make sure you're holding on to this while the chains are still on, so it holds everything intact. Is what you want to do. And then after you get them all loose, make sure they're loose enough to loosen by hand like that. You know, you don't want them to be too tight to where you go to turn it and then it wants to turn the thing out of alignment. So do that first. Now, what happens after you take them off, I don't know. That's the next video. So we'll get to that point. Just wanted to give you that helpful tip for right now. Make sure you use either a crescent wrench or the sized wrench that holds this with a breaker bar so you can have enough tension and torque on this end so when you go to loosen these, there's no issues. So cool. I'll be back. Alrighty, here's a helpful tip to let you guys know what's going on. So when I loosened the chain and I actually got it to the point, the big chain, and got it where I was letting go of the sprocket on this part of the timing cam, or this part of the cam, it spun, but it only spun one direction to the right, which basically closed that valve. So don't panic if that happens. Just pay attention to what's going on and what happened. Now, when you put the chains back on, it's almost a dummy proof thing. There's these little pins on both ends of this that go into specific holes inside here. I mean, it can't miss the hole as long as you got it in line. Now, when you go to put it back on, make sure you change this tensioner before you start doing all this stuff, because I'm pretty sure there's, well, I got the new one. Yeah, there's little pins in there that you have to pull out to release the tension when you put it on. So you don't have to worry about it not doing what it needs to do, as long as it's in line. So when you pull it off, make sure you put it back on the same way, which is almost idiot proof. But in case you panic when it spins, it's not going to like spin out of control and not stop. It's just closing the valve that's partially open when you had it turned set to time to be at top dead center. Don't worry, don't panic, you're fine. I'm coming back, and hopefully when I come back I'll have everything else done, but I'll continue to, if I run into something, you know, let you guys know what's going on. There's supposed to be a dot on there somewhere that I'm supposed to be able to line it up with. And if I'm correct, then everything will still be in time no matter what I've done. And I'll let you guys know. So, cool. Just to help you out. There's pins in here to line you back up. I have it on the one dot where it's supposed to be. And then this mark is supposed to line up with that singular mark there, because that's bank 1. So that's just to let you know. And we're back again. Let's go. All right, another helpful tip when it comes to getting this sprocket off of this shaft. When you go to put the other one back on, make sure you have like a rubber mallet so you don't destroy anything. And mark, as you see that I did with the black marker, mark the keyway. Because when you put it back on, you don't really have a lot of room for error as far as which way you're putting it on. And then once you start tapping it on with the rubber mallet, like I said, it'll kind of like be fickle, finicky, whatever you want to say. It'll just be a little stupid trying to get back on. Make sure you put a little bit of oil on it too to help slide it. Once it gets there, then it's just gonna slide all the way back. You'll see. This sprocket takes a 10mm Allen. Thank goodness I had one from a 99-cent store kit, believe it or not. Yeah, that's what I said. 99-cent store had a freaking Allen set that just happened to have this freaking 9-piece Allen set with a 10mm as the main one. That's the only reason I bought it. It was $1. It was $1 well spent. I kind of had a little bit of trouble putting these on because you have to put them on just right, the same way you have to put that on just right, and then they'll just slide in. Once they're on right, they'll just slide in. You don't have to worry about whether you have it in time or not, as long as you have those particular marks where they need to be. Like, this is the bank number 2, and I'm setting it up for bank 2. Bank 2 uses this double line and then this fat arrow here. I don't know if you can see it, barely see it. There's a fat arrow here. Anyway, that's set up for bank 2. This is offset because it's spun. So what I got to do is either find the happy medium when I turn it to put it back in bank 1, which is going to be the singular line here. But it's also set up that way so that when you go to put the chain back on, you're not going to have a lot of interference. So once you do get it back on, you can turn it. There's no real way to lock it in place. So once you turn it, you kind of got to put it on to the crank as soon as possible. Make sure your guide is already here. Everything's got to be where it's supposed to be. And then you land over here on the other side and put the chain on. So this is already set where it needs to be on this side, but this side is when you have to turn till you get to the right spot. And then, like I said, excuse me, then you already have your guides on, which is 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, 4 guides, and then this thing. So that's just a helpful tip, man. Kind of be aware of what you're doing and what's going on as you do it. So let's keep it moving. And we're back. I'm in the process of turning the motor several revolutions to make sure that I'm 100% back in time. I think I'm about halfway there because these dark links, this one's supposed to be where it is, and this one's supposed to be where it is, as far as I can see. That one and that one are where they're supposed to be. Now, this one down here, when I'm finished, is supposed to be up here where it started from in the beginning. And it's supposed to be, I think, right here in line with that. I'll double check my reference video. There's a guy on YouTube that actually shows you where all the timing marks are supposed to be. He doesn't show you how to do anything, but that's fine. Another helpful tip, when you're putting the chain back on, you want to leave this out, that out, and this off just to get it on. This is going to be on last, very last, as far as your guides are concerned, and then your tensioner. Now, I haven't released the tensioner because like I said, I'm making sure that I'm 100% in time. That's just me being extra cautious and 100%. You don't have to do that if you don't feel like it. If you feel you're confident that you have it where it needs to be, by all means. I am not a mechanic by trade. I've just worked on every single one of my cars, and I'm not afraid to take things apart. So that's shouts out to everybody who does that. Not saying that you're not, in any way inferior for not doing it. If you have the money to pay somebody, by all means, you spend that money, because if I did, I would. I'm not lying. If I had the money to do that, I would have sent this car to Lexus to have it done. I wouldn't have had to worry. But since I don't have the money, I have to fix my own stuff. And I've always done it, so it is what it is. I'm going to keep doing this, and in the next video, I should be telling you that yes, and I'll show you that yes, it is 100% all in time, so I don't have to question it anymore. Then I can start the reassembly process and release the tensioner. So when I get back, that's what I'll be telling you. If not, then we're in some trouble. And I'm back. Like I said, I was either going to come with good news or bad news. So far, I've got good news, but it's not confident news like, okay, we're 100% sure. Right now, I've got this dark mark where it's supposed to be, in line with that. They're all in line. And this one's on the big arrow like it's supposed to be, in line with this mark. And then the dark one is down in there. You can't, I don't know if you can see it. Let's go around. You can't really tell. Let me, I can see it from here, but it's hard to see. Anyway, let's just see if I can't get a light on here. Flashlight. See how that chain is darker than the rest of them? And the dot is just slightly to the left of it. It's on the right spot. Anyway, I'm going to keep turning it until I get exactly like this again, where it's supposed to be. And then the dark ones on the chain in the back to match. Because that'll be literally one entire revolution from start to finish back to the way it should be. Like I said, you don't have to do this part if you don't feel you need to, but I'm just being super cautious and 100% sure that it is in time, so I don't have to pull this back apart again. That's just a tip. Before I release this tensioner, and I just want to see this mark, and the one down there all back together, plus the dark link on this side. I'm pretty sure it's opposite right now, but I'll come back again with either great news that it is 100% and I've done all the steps correctly, or I have to redo something. So just bear with me. Well, I'm back. I've turned this motor several times, hoping that I get the timing marks back, not the timing marks on the cams or the crank, but the timing marks on the chain back exactly the way they were when I started. I don't know how many more revolutions has to be done, but I'm just done. I've turned it several times, so I can say it's safe to say it's probably in time, because if it wasn't, then something would have got stuck somewhere. You know, a piston would have met up with a valve already, as many times as I've turned it. So that's that so far. I just released this. I don't know if I'm supposed to do anything special. I don't know if this comes off. I think it does. I'm not 100% sure. I'll look at the old one. No, it doesn't come off. It just, okay. It's supposed to turn. So I've got to find a way to turn it. Screwdriver or something. There you go. She's basically officially been released. Cool, just like the other one. That's up, that lets you know it's released. But it doesn't seem to be doing anything anyway. I don't know. I'm hoping that it's fine. So, until next time, it's been fun, and I will tell you what I do and when it comes to putting this pan back on. As you can see, the pan's down. So, on to the next part of this project, getting this all put back together. Thanks for watching, if you're still watching, and if you've gotten this far with me and you've done the exact same thing, then I'm pretty sure you're fine. So, until the next video, or if I make one more, it'll just be telling you how I managed to clean all this stuff while it was in there. So, see you later. And we're back. I'm hoping I'm going to give you another helpful tip. How do you clean these out? Well, I mean, for the most part, you can see I started doing it. I believe this is a 1/4 inch drill bit. I'm not 100%, so don't hold me to the coals for that. But it fits in here almost perfect. I mean, it's a little loose in the hole, but the objective is to turn this and use, you know, as much force as you need to by hand, and just kind of twist it around, walk it around the walls. You know, you don't need to use a drill and have a oops moment. But see all that crud that comes out of there? Yeah, that's what we want. Nice clean holes so the bolts pass right through, no problems. I mean, they're not going to be 100% perfect, but if you take the time, it'll be nice. So the next time you see this thing, I should have all this cleaned up all the way around. My buddy used to use Scotch-Brite to clean this, so I think I'll try that with some rubber gloves, Scotch-Brite, and some brake cleaner. See if I can't rub off the rest of this without creating pits. That's what you don't want. You don't want to create any pits, because pits cause leaks. So if you can keep it as flat as possible, then that'll be good. That's all I have for right now. Till the next video, hopefully this will be cleaned, and I'll show it to you just before I put the silicone on it and then put it back onto the vehicle. Same for the front of this. I'm going to clean all that too. I mean, of course I can't clean the bolt holes themselves because, you know, I don't have anything to stick in there. Maybe if you have a pipe cleaner with little wire bristles on it you can stick on the end of a drill, maybe that'll work. I don't know, but whatever helps. Whatever happens. And as far as I can tell, I'm in time, so I'm not going to stress that anymore. I mean, I've turned this thing several times and didn't feel any other normal resistance, and it's been pretty good. So I'll get back to it. What's up, y'all? I'm back again. I am removing the gaskets for the spark plug cylinder area, and they look like this after pulling them out because like they're in there so good. But this is what I used. I don't know if you have these tools or not, but I got these from Costco because my wife suggested it, but it wasn't for this specifically, but they found to be really useful. So this is a straight pick. This is the smallest of the flathead screwdrivers. Then I used the step up from that one, and I just used just a big one to tap on them. So I use this one first in this area. I would tap it until I felt it hit the bottom, and then just kind of work it back and forth a little bit. Do the same thing with the small flathead screwdriver, just so it had enough room to get it in there. Do the same thing, tap on it until it gets to the bottom, and then work that back and forth. Then with the bigger one, same thing again, tap it in until it reaches the bottom. But then when it reaches the bottom, you can pry a little bit and then twist. And when you twist, it causes it to start making that curvature until you get it all the way out. And this one's not all the way out yet, so I'm trying to do this one-handed. Let's see if I can brace it and hold it at the same time. See? Now it's broken loose. And see, these things, they're just little keepers, but you can always bend them back. And then you can see the journals. That one was pretty dirty, so that one failed before these two did. Obviously, I mean, these are clean. I didn't clean those. But, yeah. So that lets you know when one's failed, I guess. And then to put them back in, I put in a little bit of the Permatex right around this. Not on the walls, because it'll slip. But right here to kind of hold it in place once it goes in. And then you would literally take the new one and shove it in this direction underneath these two pieces. Same as this side and same as this one. You'd fold one away and then slide it inside there. So just a helpful tip. And then when it comes to the actual valve cover gasket, the one I bought was online. It was not too expensive, but I think their Gates brand or what came in the package because they're blue. I don't know if that's a significance or not, but they have these little, here, let's show you. Here's when I got it warming up outside. But they have these little keeper tabs in them. I don't know if you can see that or not. Sorry for it being out of focus. I don't know, maybe you can. Those right there. There's those little keeper tabs on the ridges. That side is the side that goes into the valve cover. All the way around. In specific spots it has them. But anyway, when you put it in there, kind of just work it all the way around. Don't be in a rush. Make sure that it's also all the way seated. And then I took a little bit of the gasket stuff to be a supplementary thing. I'll put it in here, and then there's a little edge right here. I'll make sure it's all been cleaned off. I'll take the gasket maker stuff and put it along this little edge, really thin bead, all the way around once the gasket is in there, and then let it dry. And once it's dry, it helps hold it in there, so when you go to put it down, it won't fall out, because sometimes they have a tendency to just drop back out. So just another helpful tip, man. I'll show you another video after this to show you what I did as far as getting the bottom back on and getting it sealed up and everything. So just wait for that one. Back again. Alrighty, check this out. So as you can see, I used that gasket maker stuff. I kind of globbed it on there. It wasn't, I mean, it was hard. I ain't gonna lie, it wasn't easy. But the pan is all the way back up again. Everything's back together. What What I used to clean off the gasket was this. It is like a sandpaper thing, but it was very dull or used up, so it was perfect. It didn't overly abrasive, you know what I'm talking about. It didn't scratch the surface too bad. It kind of polished it a little bit, which was really good. Then on the top end, believe it or not, I used this thing, which is your run-of-the-mill scrubby pad for your dishes, and I used brake cleaner. But as you can see, the adhesive that holds the scrubby part on failed, and it started to fall apart. I just did it the best I could and got everything clean as best I could. Now I still need to tackle part of the actual oil pan. This part is not an oil pan. This is just like a bracket slash cup type deal, because on the forward part of it is the cup where some of the oil falls to, and then behind here inside this thing is an actual pump. When this turns, it's pumping. So I don't really know how it all works. Anyway, it's all back up together. I now have to go ahead and lower the motor, start putting all that other stuff back together. But I just wanted to tell you what I did. If you buy a water pump, it comes with a gasket. All you gotta do is make sure that surface is clean, which it was, so we were good. If you don't know where stuff goes when it comes to taking it out, my daughter, who's a mechanic, she gave me a suggestion. One, when you start pulling the bolts out, put them in separate containers marked for what they are, and take pictures, take video, whatever it takes if you don't know where stuff goes. What I did personally, I loosened every one of these bolts to the point where they're hand turnable, so they were all ready to come out, and then I pulled the whole thing out all at once. I just took it from here and pulled the whole thing out and left all the bolts in it, and then I was able to put them back where they go after I was done. It would kind of confuse me on these two, but then I had to remember that your pipe for your thermostat kind of comes up this direction. It makes a turn, so that's where these two spaces come from, and you'll be fine. Putting back the valve covers soon. I mean, I'm trying to keep this thing as covered as possible. It's dry from yesterday. It's a long road, but the next video you'll see, I hopefully have the alternator and the AC back in, the motor mounts back connected again, and I got a phone call coming in, but my valve covers on top and all that, so just wait for the next one. It's getting a little windy out, and I don't know what it's a little past midday, I think. I don't really know what time it is, but as you can see, she's almost completely reassembled. The fun part is going to be all the wiring harness and the intake manifold plenum. That's what it is. It's an intake manifold plenum. The manifold itself is underneath there. Anyway, like I said, I got the alternator back in, AC. Now when you're reassembling it, work backwards. So put your AC on first and then put your alternator. Then after all that's said and done, then you'll put your thermostat housing and all that stuff on here. All the hoses get reconnected, all the little things get connected back. Like, it's almost done. So I can't wait to show you guys the first time I fire it back up after all this. I got to put the spark plugs back in and all that good stuff. I'm considering getting new ones before I do that, just because, I mean, it has 170,000 miles on it, and I don't know when the last time any of this other stuff was serviced. It's going to get fresh oil, fresh coolant. Hopefully, if my payday persists the way I'm hoping it will, next week I'll be able to put spark plugs in it. So I'm going to have to run it. If I can get it done tomorrow, which would be the final day, then all I have to do is come back in here again and change spark plugs. So that's not too difficult. I do have to remove the manifold plenum again just to get to this bank of spark plugs. So, I mean, that's just something that I'll have to do. But for now, as you can see, it's all back together for the most. I'll see you in the last video. And we are back again. This is probably going to be the second to last video of this compilation on how to do the timing chain, disassemble and partial reassemble on a 2006 Lexus IS250. This Allen set, it's a long stem with a handle. I needed it so I can get into the intake manifold plenum to put these back in, and I'm going to set the camera down so I can kind of show you what I'm doing. Now you can still hear me, but this is what I'm doing. I'm taking a piece of the rubber glove that I've been using, and I will kind of demonstrate it for a second. This is what I'm doing. I'm taking the rubber glove, sticking it over the hole of the bolt, shoving down so it's got a nice seat onto the tool, and then literally just ripping it off. Just like that. And look, it doesn't fall off. So then when it comes to putting it back in, it holds it for you. All you got to do is guide it to the hole, and voila. And if you are not tall enough to see into the top of the plenum to put these last few things in for this application, then what I suggest you do is follow this point of reference on the back end of, you slide it down in there and you'll hit the hole. Simple. And in case you don't know, when you do your timing chain and you pull off your plenum and you want to do your spark plugs, I just found this out when I went to O'Reilly today. $28 a piece for the spark plugs because they are iridium, and there's only two specific kind. 6858 NGK is the NGK brand, and you'll see even on eBay they're pretty pricey still. Cheapest I found was about $100 for all 6, but I don't know if they're genuine, so I wouldn't trust that. I ended up going ahead and spending a little extra cash to get something that's genuine, NGK. Or by Denso is the next best brand. That's what's in this car right now, and I'm happy because I didn't have the money to buy new NGKs or new Denzos, so the ones that are in there we're going to have to do for now. But it's not hard to pull this all back off and change those. It's just tedious because there's a lot of little plugs and hoses and whatnot, but nothing that you can't handle if you've already disassembled it and reassembled it. But the next video, you're going to see everything all put back together, and it will be for the first time of starting up. So, I mean, in good faith, let's hope that everything was done correctly. I put everything, as far as the timing marks were concerned, on the chain and on the bank 1, bank 2, etc., etc. I made sure all that was good, and then tightened it and cranked it and did all that good stuff. Let loose of the tensioner on the slack end so it pushed the chain in a little bit, and then it holds itself. Now don't feel weirded out about it moving back and forth because it's a little pump. It literally pumps oil into itself so that it stays lubricated while it's running. Pretty neat. Another thing, when it came to the bottom oil pan, that was the last thing I did as far as reassembling this thing. I let it dry for an extra day just so, you know, make sure it was all good. And then this morning I went ahead and applied the, you know what, I can show you what silicone sealant I've been using. It's called The Right Stuff by Permatex, and we'll see if it works. I don't know if it's for this application or not, but I've used it on everything. The valve covers, the oil pan, the secondary pan that you have to disassemble to get your timing cover off, the timing cover. I've used it on everything. So we'll see how well that stuff works. I mean, I'm not sponsored by anybody. I am not a certified mechanic. I just work on my own vehicles because I have no other choice unless I'm going to spend a lot of money having somebody else do it and put a warranty on it. And the reason why they put warranties on stuff most of the time is in case it fails. And if it does fail, then you're down again, and I hate that. So I'd rather just take the time. It took me several days to do this, several videos, short ones, just to kind of tell you what I was doing. But if you've come with me this far, then obviously either you're just wanting to do it yourself, or you like what I've been doing and showing how to do it yourself, which is always a good thing when you do things yourself. You know more about it. You can say that you built something, you've accomplished it. Even if you're spending money on it and having somebody else do it, you can still claim the fact that you had it done. You know, you had some money put into the car and it wasn't just you slouching, you know, by not doing it and just driving the car around until it's getting ready to break, and then you sell it to somebody else and let them deal with it. That's not cool. It happens. It's just not cool. You know, I don't condone such a thing, but, you know, people, you know, they got to do what they got to do. You know, I'm not knocking on anybody for doing what you got to do if you don't have the skills or the money or anything to do anything above your means. So I suggest you just, you know, keep doing what you're doing. You know, do you. But yeah, the next video you'll see, it's going to be complete, and it'll be the first time I start it up, literally. So it's not going to start right away because, you know, the fuel system has to pressurize again. It might take a couple of cranks, but all I'm going to do is just literally turn on the key, let it charge the fuel system first. You'll be with me for the whole thing, and hopefully she fires up and stays in time, because I mean, that's all I could do. I turned the motor several times by hand and didn't come to a point where it got stuck or felt like it was getting stuck, other than to complete that revolution where the cams push down the lobes to open and close the valves and all that good stuff. So, yeah. Until the next video, I'll see you guys, and keep doing what you do, man. And like I promised, this is the day where we start the car for the first time after all this time. This pill bottle is here because I need something to help burp the system, and this fits perfect. So, like I said, it's got to, I don't know what's going to have to happen, but I'm going to turn on the key. It's been a long time since I've started here. Let's just, this is going to be bad. Well, no cracking, so that's good. Let's turn this AC off. Almost out of gas. It's empty of oil. I know the system needs to be fueled up better. Let's try that one more time. Computer has to learn all over again. That's literally the first time I've started it. I don't hear that noise anymore. I used to hear this rattling sound. I hear the intake doing its thing. Let me turn this off because she's got a little bit of a misfire happening. I don't know if I need to change spark plugs or what. See how it's bubbling and burping? But yeah, so far so good. I can't complain. I accomplished what I set out to do. You can too if that's what you want to do. I mean, just take your time and take it apart correctly, put it back correctly, you'll be fine. So everybody that followed me or watched this or wanted some tips or whatever, it is possible to change your timing chain while it is in the car and your water pump and all that all at the same time. You just got to be patient. And as you can see, she's running. She's got a little bit of a miss. But like I said, I don't know if that's spark plugs or coil packs, or just because it's been sitting. She hasn't idled down yet, so you know, maybe after she gets warmed up, she'll stop acting this way. I'm just letting her burp off all the rest of that air out of the system. And yeah, hope you guys enjoyed all the stuff that I did, and if you wanted to do it too, well, there you go. Now you can figure out how with no real headaches. So until next time, on the next video, maybe it'll be a starter. I don't know. We'll figure it out. Take care, you guys.